Well, thank you very much, Lee. It's a pleasure to be here. When I had 2 years leave from LSE at the World Bank, I was appalled to see people who knew not a lot about other countries going into them and telling them what to do. I refer to it as the Poland must syndrome. And I'm not about, as a bald old English git, to come into Wales and tell you what to do. I'm going to talk about general principles. I'm going to talk about what's going on in England. I should say that I am a big supporter of the 2006 reforms in England. I am totally unprintable about the 2012 reforms, so don't expect me to defend those. My central argument is a counterintuitive one, which is that opposing fees in the interests of widening participation is fighting the wrong battle. And in trying to stand that up, I'm going to make 4 sub-arguments. 1, the world has changed. 2, there are important lessons from economic theory. 3, what really determines participation, it's prior attainment stupid. And the 4th argument is that the evidence supports the theory. So, first of all, the world has changed. If you've got my handout, this is slide 2. Basically what's happened is the number of people in higher education has skyrocketed over the past 50 years. Now, there are reasons for that. Higher education matters for the reasons it's always mattered: to promote core values, to transmit knowledge, to develop new knowledge. But today, unlike the past, it has a new purpose as well. Because of what economists call skill-biased technological change, it is an important part of the growth economy. So countries need large, high-quality systems of tertiary education, and that's a huge difference from 50 years ago. The specific objectives of higher education policy that I'm going to talk about are 3. 1 is quality. The second is access for people irrespective of their socio-economic background. And though quality and access are obvious, the third one, size, is a consequence of the way the world has changed. The option of going back to a small elite system is, that the past is no longer on offer. So that's my first argument. Second argument, lessons from economic theory. A central lesson is that graduates should share in the costs of their degree. I'm choosing my words carefully. Graduates should share, not students. Students are broke. But there are 3 reasons why graduates should share. First of all, higher education has major social benefits, but it also has major private benefits. And therefore, it is both efficient and fair that the beneficiaries should pay some of the costs. A second reason for cost sharing is countries can't afford to pay for the costs of a mass high-quality higher education system. That was true long before the economic crisis. It will remain true. So that's one lesson from economic theory. A second lesson is that well-designed student loans have core characteristics of which having income-contingent repayments is a crucial one. There are other lessons from economic theory, but I will keep moving to the third argument, which is it's prior attainment stupid. There's something that I refer to as pub economics. Pub economics refers to something that's obviously right, and everyone knows it's right, but it's wrong. And it is pub economics to argue that tuition fees harm access. What the evidence shows is that access is a huge problem. It's a 0 to 18 problem, much more than it's an 18 plus problem. And if I could ask you to look at slide 6 on the handout, I want to talk a bit about that. The top bar in the histogram shows participation by students who have the very best A-level grades. And it shows that 97% of them go to university. The second bar shows students with good but not quite such good A-level grades, and there the participation rate is about 90%. So what this diagram shows is the better your A-level grades, the more likely you are to go to university, which is deeply boring and obvious. But if you now look, you've got on each of them a light grey bit and a dark grey bit. Light grey, top 3 socioeconomic groups. Dark grey, bottom 3 socioeconomic groups. What this says is If you control for prior attainment, the socioeconomic gradient largely disappears. Or in policy terms, what it says is, if you can get them to decent A-levels, you've cracked it. So what you should be spending money on is 0 to 18 rather than 18 plus. Now, my fourth argument is that the evidence supports the theory. The 2006 reforms in England got that broadly right. If you look at slide 10, which has got some tiny numbers on it, the 2006 strategy introduced variable fees, fully covered by income contingent loans, and with a whole range of previously introduced policies earlier in the system. Literacy hour, numeracy hour, education maintenance allowances, aim higher, etc. So fees went up, but if you look at the bottom line of slide 12, participation improved dramatically. The percentage of applicants from the most disadvantaged backgrounds applying to university rose from 12% in 2006 to 18.5% in 2011-12. There's other bits of evidence on that table, more money for universities, etc. But the key point that I want to make is that because of the package of tuition fees supported by stuff earlier in the system, what you got in England was a dramatic improvement in participation. And to conclude, this isn't just an exercise in logic chopping. The arguments about the determinants of participation are important. Free is just another word for some other sucker pays. And if you ask who goes to university and who pays, it's a sorry story. So the policy that spends money on free higher education instead of improving earlier education is spending money largely on the wrong thing. We should be spending money instead on people who leave school without any qualifications. So my bottom line is, it's right to discuss where to set the fees cap, but opposing fees in general is fighting the wrong battle. Final point, I think this is an area where the economics is dead easy. It's the politics that's horribly hard. So I wish you well in what is a very important debate. Thank you very much.